if I should actually bother telling you the specs because I'm going to remake it. These aren't going to be the specifications anyway. Okay. Hello. Welcome to episode 4 of this Thread of Gold knitting podcast. My name's Nicole. And I'm a 23-year-old knitter based in Dundee in Scotland. And yeah, this is a podcast where I talk about knitting related things, what I'm going to knit on, acquisitions, the standard like knitting podcast format, except it's me, so it's special. Yeah, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. First of all, I want to thank everyone for who, watched my last video and for commenting, liking, subscribing, all that kind of things. I was on the podcast last time with my partner, Connor, and we had a lot of fun. It was a very fun episode. We sat down, like, after I posted it to respond to comments, and Connor was like immediately overwhelmed by how kind everyone is and how nice the comments are. So we actually didn't respond to that many because like we'd sit down, we'd open some comments and we'd be like, oh, that's so nice. And we'd be like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's just incredible. So yes, thank you everyone for commenting. There were a lot of great comments about making a jumper that could fit both of us in it. Like maybe one that has 2 heads and like is wide enough to fit 2 people in it. Connor loved those ideas. I did not love those ideas. We came to a compromise that was we would make it, like Connor would make it, not we. Like if Connor wanted to knit it, I would help him, get all the supplies and get his stuff set up, and he could spend his time knitting it because a sweater for one person is enough knitting for me. But yeah, I really loved reading the comments and I still go back and check all them out. I do read all the comments. So, yes, that's awesome. The format, that I'm going to do today is going to be very similar to the classic, like starting with finished objects, onto whips, onto acquisitions. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about knitting plans that I have. Because my whips are not that exciting. So it's going to be a pretty short section. So I think it'll, it frees up a little bit of space at the end for me to talk a bit about knitting plans. First, I'm going to talk about what's in my cup. Here we have, first of all, let's talk about the cup. I love some ceramics. This is handmade by... Ooh, I don't know what her handle is. Mizka Ceramics. Connor bought 2 of these little handleless mugs, which are so nice to hold and like have a hot drink in them. He bought them. I think the person who makes these was the World Barista Championship winner of a couple years ago, and that's something that Connor followed along with, of course. So Connor bought these mugs and we love them. They're very cute. And what's in my mug is some pucka, that's how I'm going to say it, pucka turmeric gold tea. This is a green tea with turmeric, of course, and lemon. I haven't tried it yet, so this is going to be my first sip, live in action tasting of this tea. I'm very curious about it. Oh, yeah. So, it's just giving me like an instant flashback. I have always been a DIY kind of girly. Obviously, when I was younger, my parents weren't spending money on like skincare and stuff like that for me. So I had like a decent amount of acne when I was younger, And of course, we love a DIY remedy. I was also on YouTube, like, you know, watching YouTube at the time, and all the girlies were doing their DIY face masks. There was a face mask that I would make that I was convinced was helping me with my acne, which was like aloe vera gel mixed with turmeric, or turmeric mixed with yogurt, and then I'd slap that on my face, and then I'd go about for 30 minutes and wash it off, and I'd be like, oh yeah. And I remember like rinsing it off, and the sink would be all yellow and having to clean it up and all that stuff. Oh yeah. So obviously I'd be kicking about with a turmeric face mask, and it would stink of turmeric. Unfortunately, that's what this reminds me of. I don't like that. I'm gonna get another tea soon. Yeah, it's not my favorite. Let me put that down. So that's my slightly disappointing what's in my cup. I really enjoyed reading people telling me about what's in their cup, so let me know what's in yours. Hopefully it's tastier than what's in mine. Aside from that, I think I'm just gonna be sipping on some water, because that's not my favorite. That brings us on to finished objects. The astute of you will have noticed that I'm already wearing one of my finished objects, and you might even recognize what this is. This is my mini mock neck. Let me stand up. I think it looks all right if I stand up to show you. So this is my mini mock neck. Super cute. I've still got loads of ends attached. I have my ends to weave in still, not because I am averse to weaving in ends. I usually either get it done as the project progresses or pretty soon after. These don't have the ends woven in because, and I'll get this out of the way, the neck, the bind off I used, it doesn't look like it, but it's like extremely tight. Like this edge of the bind off right here is so tight that like, obviously I can get it onto my head, but like barely. It's barely getting on there. It's incredibly tight. So I've still got an end attached to this neckline because I plan to take some time to just go in and like, loosen that up at some point. I wonder when I'll do that. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about the specs of my mini mock neck. Let me take this off while I'm talking about it. This is a Jessie May Designs pattern. I think it's so cute. It turned out perfectly, like just how I wanted it to turn out. There's a mirror here, so I'm kind of looking at it while I talk about it. This is a tank top. Yes, tank top that's knit in an Edelweiss Fibers standard sock. Edelweiss Fibers is an Edinburgh-based. She's an Edinburgh-based yarn dyer. Her standard sock base is a 25-75 nylon superwash merino blend, which means it's super stretchy, but it like cinches in quite nicely. This is a size large on a 100-ish, maybe 97, I think, let's say 97 centimeter bust. And yeah, it fits perfectly. I love it. I knit it to pattern. I didn't change anything. From shoulder to the end of the ribbing, it is about 42 centimeters, and I think that's a perfect height. Let me stand up again. It's a perfect height for my jeans. These are like literally the only jeans I wear. I don't even have another pair of jeans, and they are high-waisted. My belly button is probably about here, and yeah, there's like a tiny bit of skin poking out if I raise my hands, but otherwise it sits at a really nice level. And this is yeah, this is perfect. I absolutely love the way that this looks. And yeah, and I love the color. It's awesome. You know what? So I'd either usually style this with, I have these jeans, or I have brown trousers that look really nice. And I'd style it with like a shirt, jacket kind of situation over the top, or my leather jacket. Let me show you, actually. Yeah. So with this brown leather jacket, I wear this everywhere. I wear this all the time, and I think together they look, I pretty much made this top to wear with this leather jacket. I just think it looks perfect together. Very autumny, but still cool enough for summer. And yeah, I think it looks great. So I'm super happy with this. The bind off at the bottom is like an Italian tubular bind off, which is a sewn bind off. I had no problems at all getting that done, which is the same bind off as up here on the top. And I also got like, I had my first couple of night shifts a few days ago, and yeah, that's where I was like doing my sewn bind off on my breaks, and it was super peaceful and like pretty quiet on shift. Sorry to anybody who's watching this video on their shift and I've just said the Q word, I apologize. But yeah, I had a lot of fun knitting this. I thought it was a really well written pattern. I think it's really well designed. And yeah, I have my eye on, there's a test knit that's just been, there's just been a call for another Jessie Made Designs test knit, which I kind of have my eye on. It looks pretty interesting. So maybe I'll be doing my first test knit soon. TBC. So yeah, that was my first finished object. I think it looks fabulous. That brings me on to my second finished object. If you've seen my previous episodes, this won't be a surprise at all. It's my Mussleburgh hat. Before I show it to you, I want to tell you a little bit about myself as a knitter. I enjoy re-knitting objects. I enjoy frogging objects. I find the actual physical act of frogging really cathartic and fun and like visually satisfying to see an object get frogged, which is already probably a bit of a controversial opinion. There are two main reasons for this. The first reason I like re-knitting objects is because I have a pretty like curious mind. I have a pretty like, not necessarily creative. I wouldn't consider myself creative, but there's always a part of my mind where when I'm knitting patterns, there's part of me that's going, oh, I wonder why decreases are put here, or I wonder why this technique is used here instead of this technique, or I wonder what this bind off looks like, or I wonder what, there's always part of me that's like, I'm knitting something, but I'm kind of like thinking about the other possibilities. And I usually do knit to pattern because a large majority of my brain is going, I've knit like 5 things total. Maybe not, yeah, actually 5, but like I've knit very few things. I still class myself very much as a beginner knitter. So following patterns and following instructions is the way to go. So I always knit to pattern. The first time. So there's that creative part of me that's like, if I was to knit this again, maybe I'd tweak this or do something a little bit differently. But I have no desire to knit multiples of objects for myself, I'll say. I am knitting another Ingrid sweater, but I knit the first one for Connor, and then I'm knitting one for myself, and I have no desire to have, multiples of an Ingrid sweater for myself. A small sidebar is that I would very much knit multiples of this tank top. It was super fun and easy to knit, super quick, and I think different fabrics or different yarns, maybe variegated yarn or striped yarn, would look super cute. This would be like a cute, easy way to showcase those yarns. So I hold my tongue or bite my tongue, sorry, because I'll probably knit more of these in the future. But thus far I've had no desire to knit multiples of objects. That means that if I have an opportunity to frog, usually caused by a mistake on my part, like I didn't read the pattern right, usually, or like, you know, whatever mistake, if I have an opportunity to frog an object, there's a part of me that's like, oh, this is exciting. I wonder if I'm going to do things differently, or, you know, I made this mistake, so that's why this object looks like that right now, but when I follow the pattern, it's going to look like this. So I can look at the difference between how the two objects look and realize that, okay, this mistake, which maybe I've accidentally decreased or I've done whatever, you know, causes it to look like that. Seeing this action and effect in action gets a little bit of my brain going. I love it. The second reason I like to reknit, frog and reknit objects is kind of, probably some of you will relate to this, but it's this idea of, I'm a student, right? So my finances are limited. I do budget and I do save up to buy yarn. And I try to buy with the intention of stretching my money, like getting my money's worth, if that makes sense. Not necessarily stretching my pennies, but like getting my money's worth. I know, or I feel that like buying pricier yarns, not all the time, because it is not in my budget to be buying pricey yarns all the time, and buying hand-dyed yarns and independent, you know, buying from independent businesses can often be a lot more expensive, and it's not in everyone's budget. It's not in my budget because I'm a student. That means that when I do buy a yarn that I really like, I want to stretch my enjoyment of it, because knitting is a hobby as well. And I'm not just interested in knitting for the finished garment, which I am, but there's this aspect of knitting that is, you could boil it down to hours spent knitting. And if I have to frog and reknit an object, it is doubling the amount of time spent knitting, or, you know, it's increasing the amount of... Hey guys, my audio cuts out here, which is annoying, but I'm basically saying that like every time I have to frog a knit object, especially in a yarn that I'm really enjoying, it kind of increases the amount of time that I get to spend enjoying the yarn. So like if I have a project that takes me 10 hours to knit and I have to frog it all, I get to then spend 20 hours of knitting. And when in my mind, I will like basically be like, instead of paying £20 for 10 hours enjoyment, I've paid £20 for 20 hours of enjoyment. So it's like more cost effective in my head. I don't know if anyone relates. And I'm sure, you know, I'm probably preaching a little bit to the choir there. But let me know what you think. Like, do you enjoy reknitting things? Does frogging bother you? Like, do you get a bit frustrated with that? Because I certainly don't. But yeah, super long-winded, and I'm sure a lot of you agree anyway. But let me show you my Mussleburgh hat. Yeah. Basically, as I'm sure you can tell from the preamble, I'm gonna have to reknit this. I'm not gonna put it on now because I don't wanna mess with my hair, but it's huge. it's I've made a giant's hat. This hat is, you know, it's so big. It's damn near like, it's almost like the circumference of my waist, to be honest. Like, it's so big. No I mean, yeah, I don't intend to wear this with an afro, so it's just too big. I can tell you what happened, because I have some notes. But first of all, I'll talk about the yarn a little bit. This is Drop's Charisma. It is, I think it's Charisma. I'll put it on screen. It is a wool alpaca blend. I think 65% wool, 35% alpaca. I mean, I've used this, you've seen this before on my podcast. I use this for my classic rib top, and I've talked about it. It's super squishy, super soft, and really, really cozy. That alpaca, you know, and the wool, it makes it incredibly cozy. It's a fingering weight yarn as well. So this is in the colorway Pistachio. It's this beautiful, like, yeah, pistachio green. I think it looks so good. I love the color. It's so me. I love it. And the yarn is super squishy, which is great. This pattern is really cool. This is as I said, this is the Mussleburgh hat by Isolde Teague, I think is how you say it. And it's essentially this really cool beanie pattern where you knit what is this? Come on, geometry. This is a sphere. It's like a spherical shape. It's hollow in the middle here. You knit a crown, then you knit the body in a sphere shape in the round, and then you knit another crown, which means that when you fold it in on itself, you have a beanie that is double thick. It's twice as thick as one layer of this fabric would be. And then further still, if you fold up the brim, which I intend to do, this section is actually like 4 times as thick as one layer of this fabric would have been. So I love that pattern. I love this idea. I have tried this on, as you'll see in the video, and I love the way that this section covers my ears. Like, it's so incredibly cozy, which, you know, I go camping, I go hiking and stuff like that in the Highlands, and you really want, especially in the winter, you really want something I really want something that covers my ears and just keeps them so cozy and toasty. And this is that. So I'm incredibly excited about this pattern, and I'm incredibly excited about the yarn. And that's a large part of the reason that I am going to reknit this. So what happened? It's gigantic. So this hat is an adult medium-sized hat. An adult medium in this pattern is designed to fit around a head which has a circumference or diameter. Circumference of the diameter. Maths. Let's say circumference. You know what I mean, like the measurement around. It's designed to fit a head with a diameter of 24 inches. The pattern recommends, and as with most beanies, you'll notice that they actually have negative ease, which means that the finished circumference of the hat is going to be smaller than the circumference of the head that it's designed to fit. For example, in this pattern, it's designed to fit a 24-inch head in the size that I chose, but it's going to have, the actual garment is going to have 2 inches of negative ease, meaning the actual diameter is supposed to be 22 inches for a 24-inch head. Yes. So this is 24 inches, which is not negative ease, which means that it looks really strange and it looks really baggy. Actually, when I put it on my head, you'll see that I pinched, you know, what I thought was like excess fabric and kind of to see what it would look like with the correct diameter. And when I then measured how much I'd pinched, roughly how much I'd pinched in my hands, it was like about 2 inches, maybe 2 or 3 inches. So Why is this pattern so big? I hear you asking. A feature of this pattern is that you don't have to knit a swatch. This pattern can be knit with like a whole range of weights of yarn. I think from like fingering, maybe light fingering, to like all the way up to wherever you want to, maybe a chunky yarn. And the idea is that all of the, no matter what size hat you're making on what size yarn, you're gonna start the crown the same way, with these increases out from a cast on. What's going to change is the amount of increases that you do, basically. They're going to change depending on the size of the hat that you're making and on the weight of the yarn that you're using. So what you do, you don't knit a swatch beforehand. You start knitting a circular crown. I use magic loop to do so. And then you measure your gauge. You take your gauge swatch in here. This is your swatch. And then you follow the correct pattern for the stitches per inch that you have. Does that make sense? And essentially when I had measured it in here, I think I was getting like nine stitches per inch, 8 or 9 stitches per inch, or maybe 8.5, somewhere in there. So then I believe I followed the pattern correctly for the number of stitches per inch that I had. And then, you know, when I've measured it just now, you know, somewhere in here in like a reasonable relaxed spot, I'm getting like 7 stitches per inch. The point is, my gauge is now off. Perhaps I made other mistakes as well, but yeah, the very obvious, like this garment does not fit as intended, and a very obvious reason for that to me is that my gauge is off. I'm not sure what happened because my gauge was, I mean, I measured it multiple times in a couple small sections up here, but clearly it's not that. That's not the correct gauge. I think maybe like, because it was on magic loop and it was under tension, like it must have been under some amount of tension from the cable, which caused the swatch to be strange. Anyway, regardless, I'm gonna have the correct gauge. As Connor said in the last episode, and I said it. You always knit a swatch eventually, whether it is, you know, the 10 by 10 square or the actual garment. So I'm going to use this as my swatch, take it out, re-knit it. But to tell you a little bit about the specs, crown to crown, this is 21 inches. Yeah, I guess, because then you can look at the video and you can see how it kind of, the length of it, but then it's the wrong size anyway. So, but okay, regardless, it's 21 inches from crown to crown, and each crown for me has ended up being like almost 4 inches. So because you start on this crown, you'll knit 4 inches, and then you'll knit to however far you want to knit, taking into account the other 4 inches that are going to be on the other end. I think it looks great. So I'm going to re-knit this. It didn't take me too long. It took me about 2 weeks-ish to make this. That was with time spent, like I mostly knit it in the cinema. It was very much a side project, because I was also knitting Connor's Ingrid Sweater, finishing that up, and then I cast this on. So this was not a monogamous knit at all. This was very much a, when I feel in the mood for stockinette, when I need a break from other things, I'm knitting this. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think even when I fix this hat, I'm probably gonna make more. Maybe this is something I was talking all that smack about not knitting multiples, but like I would have multiples of this. And I think I would make one for Connor. I'd make one for like as gifts and stuff like that. Like I can see myself making a lot of these hats. So I love it. And yes, that is, oh my God, I've been talking for so long. That is this Mussleburgh hat. I only had 2 projects that I was working on last time, and I didn't cast on it anymore until those were finished. But yeah, that brings me on to my whips. Again, if anyone's been watching the previous episodes, this is not going to be a surprise at all. This is my second Ingrid Sweater. As you can see, hopefully, it's going to be a relatively short section because if you want to hear me talk about the Ingrid Sweater, you can check out my other episodes. Petite knit pattern. It's knit. I think the pattern calls for like an Aran weight. It calls for like a DK plus a lace weight yarn. I talked about it in the first episode where like I did knit a swatch in this. This is woolly knit yarn. This is the cone. They sell like 500 gram cones, and then it's like one strand of 4-ply yarn, and then you can hold it double. Oh no, sorry, this is the hank. They sell 200 gram hanks as well. It's all like you can get them in the same color. There's like, you can buy like a 200 gram hank, you can buy a 500 gram cone, or you can buy 5 100 gram balls. The hank and the cone are both 4-ply, whereas the balls are they're a DK weight. By 4-ply, like 4-ply or fingering, I think they're interchangeable. Well, almost interchangeable. They're fingering weight, and then the balls are like 2 strands of the fingering weight yarn, wound together, I believe, at their Worth Mill location, and then it's a DK weight. So this is the hank that I wound. Yeah, it's beautiful. This is the colorway Lupin. It's this beautiful purple color. I'm trying to get up close so you can see the way that it looks. It's the same as Connor's. It's the same as Connor's Ingrid. This is the women's, or the women's version of the pattern, whereas I knit Connor the Ingrid Sweater man. So one difference is this has eyelets. You probably can't see it very well, but it has an eyelet row in here, which I'm very excited about. It's knitting up. It would be knitting up quickly if I wasn't making so many mistakes and ripping it back. For some reason, even though I've essentially knit a sample and I know how Connor's Ingrid Sweater knit up, how it fit, how it grew with blocking, for some reason I had it in my head that my bust was 107 centimeters. Connor's bust is like, we have the same bust measurement. Mine's is 97, his is 97. For some reason I had it in my head that my bust was 107 centimeters. I don't know why I didn't just check my notes, because I have a little note in my phone of like all my measurements that I kind of every now and then I'll like retake the measurement and update it, so that, because I can't be bothered, like whenever I want to cast on a pattern or start a pattern, I cannot be bothered, like I usually can't remember it, can't be bothered like getting up, finding a tape measure, taking the measurement. So whenever I have the energy, every like month or so, or every now and then, I'll just take the measurement, put it in my notes so that I just have it. And I didn't check my notes. It's the silliest thing. I had it in my head that my bust was 107 centimeters, which it's not. So I cast on a size extra large. I don't know what I was thinking. Going from like knitting Connor's sweater, knowing that I'm knitting a size small for Connor, and then for some reason just being like, yep, and for some reason I'm an extra large, when I know that we have very similar bust measurements, was like such an I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking at all. And cast on an extra large, and I started knitting the back panel, like the back yoke. You know, I got through the short rows, and I kept going. I kept thinking like, oh, this seems really large. Like, this seems really large. And it took me like too long to just be like, oh, let me just get Connor's. I placed my back yoke over Connor's completed back yoke, and my Ingrid Sweater, the yoke was like 10 centimeters longer than Connor's, and Connor's is blocked and stretched, whereas mine was just, you know, not unblocked, unstretched. So the back yoke that I knit, I cast this on 2 days ago, like the back yoke that I knit a couple of days ago was just massive. I was gonna have this massive sweater, and it was okay to frog it and to reknit it. I did have a good time. Like, I feel like I have a very good understanding of what double moss stitch looks like and what it feels like, and how the short row shaping kind of works in a drop shoulder construction. I believe it's a drop shoulder construction. So like I learned skills, you know, the first time I made it with Connor's sweater. I learned skills the first time I cast mine on, and taking it back and reknitting it, I learned new things that I didn't catch the first 2 times. So I'm not upset about it. I'm more kind of just like, what state of mind was I in? How can I avoid being in that state of mind? Because that was very silly, the things that I was doing. I think I was just like so used to women's sizing, you know, more in like clothes that you buy like in shops, H&M or Next or whatever, like, or Primark, like the sizes just being so like chaotic and variable that like I was just like, well, I guess I'm an extra large. Like, I was just like, this is life. I'm like traumatized by trying to find well-fitting jeans. That's actually part of the reason I got into knitting, was like being so frustrated with the way that clothing fits in stores, that like I was like, I'm making it myself. I'm over this. I'm making my own clothes. This is trash. Sewing is in my sights. I have sewing in my sights, but another time. So yeah, my Ingrid Sweater, not much new going on there at all. I thought when I started this podcast I wasn't going to have a lot of acquisitions, because I don't want to buy. I only do 2 projects at a time. I'm not interested in having a big stash. But there's a couple things that I'm going to include. This is knitting related. This is not yarn, knitting adjacent. I have a couple of books which I'm really excited to share. The first book I'll show you is a book I got from a charity shop. It's the same charity shop as I got I think it's called The Knitting Book. I went back a couple of weeks later and I got this cute little book called Woodland Knits. This is a collection of patterns by Stephanie Dozen. I'm not sure who that is, and I have never heard of them before. How much did I buy this for? £4, $3.99. So it's a pattern of woodland themed knits. There's a couple things that are like a bit more naff. Like I'm not making that for myself or any of my friends. Maybe like a child, but there's no children in my life. I could make some knitted fairy wings for. It's like a pretty whimsical book is what I'll say. However, I was flicking through this in the store and I was like, this is like, you know, I'm gonna leave this for somebody who is more into woodland themed knits than I am. And I saw a couple of things. I was like, oh, actually, that might be a good pattern for me to have. Like, I'm interested in that pattern. The first one being this pattern it's called Catching Butterflies. It's mittens. I am going to make myself a pair of mittens, and these ones have a cute little, what looks like mohair butterfly right in the center, which I'm probably not going to do that. That's not very practical, but I might like make smaller versions and put them like on the backs of the mittens or like on the cuffs, or something, or I might just omit the butterflies altogether. And then I have a little, not mittens, like fingerless glove pattern, which is super cute. There's another pattern which is, I don't want to show you too much, it's not a pattern. It's like this collar. It's called the Changeling collar, which I think is pretty cute and pretty interesting. It has like this little color work motif that, you know, could be transferred onto a different object. There's this scarf that is so long. I would never make a scarf that long, but it's like designed after a birch tree, or like it's inspired by a birch tree. I don't want to just show you the whole book, but like I kept flicking through it and I was like, actually, that's super cute. See, this cowl has like this ivy. Am I in frame? Yeah, it has this like ivy motif. I think that looks pretty good. And like, you know, once I get it down, I could transfer that skill into something else. But where is it? Yes, here it is. Oh my God. It's a little like scarf collar. It's like a scarf. It's like a cowl scarf, but it's a fox. It's a fox. Isn't that so cute? I don't think I would ever wear it around my neck, but I would love to make one of these and just have it out, not sort of attached, just as a stuffed toy that can sit on the couch, or it could even be a, you know, what do you call them? That the only word I know for them is draft dodger, which is a different thing. It's like, I think they're called draft dodgers. They sit like at the bottom of the door and they keep the draft out. Like at the bottom of your door outside, or your bedroom door. If drafts get in the bottom, like if there's a gap, you put a, you know, tubular tube, and it keeps the draft out. I'll figure out the other name for it and it'll come to me. But yeah, that's so cute. I love foxes, and Connor loves foxes as well, so this would be a cute little gift. Yeah, so I saw this and it's £4, and I thought, like, you know, I'd pay £4. I pay upwards of £4 for some other just single patterns. The Ingrid Sweater I think was close to £5 for one pattern. Not even like the Ingrid Sweater and the Ingrid Man. So I thought, would I pay £4 for, I'd pay £4 maybe for like one or two of these patterns. So it became a no-brainer. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get this book. It's super cute. I love it. Now, the retail price for this was £15. And when I do that same, like, you know, there's like maybe 4 or 5 patterns that I saw flicking through this that I was like, that's adorable. I want that. It's still like, oh, per pattern that I'm interested in, £15 is still like reasonable, but it's also like, am I paying £15 for woodland knits when like you're knitting stuff like antlers and wings? Maybe not. But it was in the charity shop for £4. I was like, let's do it. Let's add it to my collection of books. And I feel like that might become a running theme where I spend a silly amount of money on knitting books. Because I justify it in my head like, well, I'm not buying yarn, so which is silly. But yeah, I'm really excited to have, I've mentioned before that I like to have one bigger project, maybe a sweater or, you know, a vest or knitted dress in my future, and we shall see. But then also having like an accessory on the side. So while I'm knitting this Ingrid sweater, I'm going to take back my Mussleburgh hat and reknit that, and I have like a bigger, more complex project and a smaller, easier project on the go at the same time to kind of keep me mentally stimulated. So I think once I finish with my Mussleburgh, I might break into this book, and I think the first thing I have my eyes on is that little fox, because that's adorable. I don't have the yarn. God, I'm not buying yarn for that. No, maybe I'll make the mittens. I have scraps for mittens. That would be super cute. So yes, that was my first acquisition that it's so silly. I'm so excited about it. My second acquisition, it's another book. Oh, I just pulled up my bookmark. I was like, why is this thing in here? It's it's my bookmark. Cool. Good job. I'm classing this as an acquisition, even though I haven't bought it. I was in my university library with Connor. And the university library has what's called a create space. And it's this pretty cool section of the library it's not necessarily for art students, because the art students have their own library. But it's just this section of the library that is like, it's for creating. It's really interesting. So I went in there to make some labels for my recycling bins. Because they have a label printer, they have like all these, they have a laminator, they have like a 3D printer that you can use for like pennies, which, if anyone knows of knit related things that I can 3D print, let me know, because I'm so excited to I have access, every student has access to it. And you pay a certain amount, you book a slot, and yeah, you 3D print whatever you want for I think it's something silly like 10 pence an hour, maybe 10 or 15 pence an hour. So I want to get 3D printing. I've super not knit related, but I have my eye on a 3D printed moss pole that I maybe want to print. But yeah, if you, for whatever reason, the people who are watching this have knit related 3D printed objects in mind, let me know. But yeah, this create space has also got it's got everything. It's got a sewing machine. It has, of course, easels that you can rent. It has knitting needles, just sort of straight ones that you can borrow, and crochet hooks as well, which is really cool. I don't know if you can rent those and take those away, or if you have to use them in the library, but if you wanted to make, a granny square or two here and there, I think you can rent them out. But there's also craft related books, and of course there's knitting books, there's knitting patterns. I found this binder, I don't know, it says binder that you can check out, that is just knit patterns from the 1930s, which is insane. Or actually, don't quote me on it being from the 1930s, but it's this huge almanac, is that the right word? This huge book of knit information, which is really cool. I'm gonna check it out and show you, because it's really cool. But I didn't want to check it out because I didn't need it at the moment. Somebody else can use it. Easels, it's got looms, if that's the right word, loom, I think it's a loom. It's got everything. You can borrow clay. It's okay, let me not get too bogged down, but in the create space they have the sewing machine, and they have lots of knit related books. And I found this one. It's called How to Be a Craftivist, The Gentle Art of Protest. It's by Sarah Corbett. I haven't read much of this. I've probably got the first chapter in which she's defining craft and activism. If you couldn't tell, this is it's how to combine your craft with activism. And there's kind of a bit of a conversation about what activism actually is, what the goal of activism is. It's an interesting read. And it was free because it's from the library. So I will keep you updated on how that goes. Putting on paper or putting in written terms, or actually quantifying what is activism, is an interesting idea that I've never done before. We kind of have, I kind of have this vague arbitrary idea of oh, this is what activism is. Of course, it's almost like a, when you see it kind of thing. Oh, that's what activism, that's what activism is. That's what activism is. And I've never really thought about like saying out loud or how I would write down what activism is. And I think there's an interesting little bit about that. So my 2 books, my 2 acquisitions. I do want to reiterate that I have not I've barely cracked into this book. I've read maybe like the first chapter, but stay tuned. I think I will have thoughts, and if you guys are interested, I will share my thoughts with you about the book. But yeah, I've barely cracked into it yet. So that is that. And that's my acquisition. I went and made myself a proper cuppa. That brings me on to plans, like my future plans, knitting plans. Today is the 30th of August, and I'm going to be attending the Scottish Yarn Festival. I mentioned it last week. It's held in Perth. It's going to be held on the 9th and the 10th of September, so in like a week and a half-ish. And I'm going to be going to both days. Say hi. If you're going and you see me, say hi. I'm very excited. I've just seen the floor plan, and there's so many stalls to choose from. There's gonna be so much yarn. I bet it's gonna smell so good in there. It's gonna smell so sheepy. I'm so excited. But yes, I want to go in with a plan, a game plan, because I don't want to overspend. I have a budget. I'll do like a Scottish Yarn Festival haul video. I think that'll be fun. Somebody asked if I'm gonna vlog it. Maybe. I don't know how to vlog. If I can work up the courage to be kicking about with my camera, recording everything, then I will. But there's a few things that I'm really excited to see. One of which being the Sally McWheely Emporium. I think they have a large section of floor to themselves, and there's going to be a lot of like yarn spinning happening. I think there's going to be spinning wheels there. I've never seen a spinning wheel in person, and the lady who runs that emporium seems really enthusiastic about spinning wheels. So I don't want to go down the fiber arts pipeline. You know, you get into one craft, you get into knitting, or you get into crochet, and then you do the other one, you start crocheting, and then the next thing you know, you're spending hundreds on a spinning wheel because you've decided that actually you should be making your own fiber, which part of me is like, I think it's the eco-friendly thing to do, to be making your own fiber. I can't go down that pipeline. I don't have the money for that pipeline. Maybe in the future, but I can't. I'm already seeing reels on my Instagram, or seeing short YouTube shorts that are about sewing, and there's part of me that's like, oh, but actually I have this idea for a pair of trousers that I would look so good in, and I know there's sewing patterns about this, but I don't know anything about sewing, so I would have to do I feel like I would have to do a beginner's sewing project, and I know that there's a sewing machine at uni in the create space. I see things and I'm like, oh, is this my crafter's pipeline? But look, I don't have money for that. I'm a knitter plus one failed crochet project. But yeah, there's a few stalls I have my eye on just to see. I really want to see. I really want to go to. There's an Amo yarn stall, which I've had a look at their online stuff, and they have these beautiful, vibrant, absolute, borderline neon, and some neons, beautiful, beautiful fibers that I really want to check out their stall, because I mentioned in the first episode that I'd seen. I want a long sleeve top that has big, not necessarily variegated, the way that variegated yarn comes up and it's kind of specks of each color. That's not what I want. And I don't want stripes, big stripes either. I want big splotches, almost like pooling. I want big pools of neon yellow and pink and orange as just this plain, simple, like long sleeve stockinette top. That's what I have in mind. If you have a pattern that you're like, yes, that's the one, send it my way. But I know Amo Yarns has these beautiful fibers. I really want to go see the Nervous fiber stall. I'm not going to tag all these. I'll like link them in the description box, but I'm not doing this on screen. That's not doing that. But I want to check out Nervous fibers. I know that Rebecca from the Caribbean Knitting podcast is a big fan of Nervous fibers. I want to see Ginger Twist Studios stuff. I want to see, like, there's a stall, Dystopian Fibers. And all of these, if not most of these, are Scottish based, or at least British yarn dyers, I believe. So there's gonna be lots to do, lots to see. There are a few projects that I have in mind that I want to knit in the near future that I'm specifically going to buy yarn quantities for. And I'll tell you a little bit about those. So I've talked a little bit about the long sleeved. I want this bright, I want it to be like a kind of like a going out top, maybe like a concert, or like, yeah, a concert top where it's like super bright and it's flashy and like not this, yeah, long sleeve plain stockinette top, maybe with a mock neck, because I love a mock neck. So I have my eyes set on getting some yarn for that project. The second project that I know I have a pattern in mind for as well is the Whitmer cardigan. I'll put it on screen. Yeah, it's a cardigan it has like a round yoke. It's a lace yoke. I've never knit a cardigan before, so this would be my first cardigan. And yeah, I want some yarn for that. I'm gonna knit that soon because it looks so beautiful. I really want a cardigan. I have been looking online for yarn for this pattern, and I'm finding that I'm super drawn to, like, I want like a pale purpley, lilac-y kind of color, but that's also not too like pastel. I want it to be like bright and vibrant. And I actually found some yarn that looks really like what I want from Discreet Unicorn. That is a Scottish-based indie yarn dyer. They have this beautiful lilac semi-solid that I have my eye on, but for some reason I haven't pulled the trigger on it. I think it's because I know that I'm going to be in this fabulous yarn festival and there's going to be so much. There's over like 20 stalls. There's going to be so much yarn to choose from. I could just get something in person, and I should just get something in person. I would rather not have like, not air miles, but like rail miles, I guess, on my yarn if I can avoid it. And I'm going to be taking a 30 minute train to Perth to see all this yarn. And I think I should just get a cardigan's quantity of yarn there. There's going to be stuff that I like. I also have been waiting to pull the trigger on yarn because I have a cardigan. It's not knit, and it's from M&S, but I have a cardigan. I realized like all of the yarn that I was looking at is more purple than this, to be fair. This is like a periwinkle, I think, blue. But like I have a cardigan that's this color, but I really, whenever I look at other colors for the cardigan, for the Whitmer cardigan, the only things that are drawing me are this beautiful purple color. So I've kind of been like, part of me is kind of like feeling bad about making it's a completely different, like it's obviously it's not a knit fabric, and it's more blue. It's more blue than the stuff that I've been looking at, than purple. It's also, it doesn't have any lace design on the yoke at all. But there's part of me that feels guilty for wanting to make something that I have something that is kind of similar to that. So then I tried to look at other colors, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can make it in pink, maybe I can make it in, you know, orange or green, or, you know, maybe I can make it in a different color, and I just keep getting drawn back to those like purpley, lilac-y colors. So I'm gonna just wait for the Scottish Yarn Festival to buy something. So that's what I have those two main things on my list. I want a long sleeved top, maybe cropped, with like maybe a bit of a high neck that's just plain stockinette kind of vibe. And I want something for a Whitmore cardigan. I want some yarn for a Whitmore cardigan. Aside from that, I have a wedding that I'm going to go to next year, and I want to dip my toes into lace. So my plan is to get into lace knitting with the Whitmore cardigan, and then do like an all over lace shawl. I want something really delicate looking and really like lacy. Really lacy. I saw like on Instagram, I cannot remember the name or any of the patterns. This is so annoying. This is gonna be the most annoying reference ever. But there was this person who had like shawls that had the names were like tea. So they had like an Assam shawl after Assam tea, and they had like a jasmine shawl. They had a an Earl Grey shawl. I'll link it and I'll put up some examples on screen, but they were absolutely these beautiful, beautiful shawls that I think I want to make one of those. So I'm looking for a nice yarn for a shawl. Maybe like one cake that's like color changing, like it fades through 3 or 4 colors. From the start to the end of this one big cake. Something like that for a really beautiful shawl in kind of like maybe orangey berry tones could be really nice. Maybe I'm just saying that because I'm like looking at my plants and they're all turning like autumny leaves, my strawberry plants. They're all turning autumny colors like reds and oranges and stuff like that. So maybe that's why I want an orangey reddy shawl. So those are the 3 things that I am explicitly looking for yarn for. Top, cardigan, shawl. You know, if I can't find yarn for one of those, or nothing's calling to me, or if I find something that's below the sort of mental budget I've set for those 3, got a bit of money squared away, and there's another couple items that I want as well, that if I can get them, I will show you those as well in a future episode. But that's what I'm looking for. If you guys know of a really beautiful, delicate lace shawl pattern that you want to send my way, because I haven't settled on that, but I have a couple that I'm like, that's beautiful. Send them my way. If you have a pattern for like, of course it wouldn't be too difficult to find, but if you have a pattern that you really love of like a plain long sleeved, kind of like almost like a turtleneck or a mock neck top, in stockinette, I want the sleeves I want it to have, as a whole, the top to have like a little bit of negative ease. Do you know what I mean? I'll maybe put up a picture, like some sample pictures of what I'm thinking of, what I have in mind. If you have something like that you're like, this pattern is really well written, or you really want to support the designer, or that you really want to shout out, feel free to put that in the comments down below as well. I'll take a look at those because I read all the comments. Tell me also like what you think about, I mentioned earlier about re-knitting projects and about frogging projects. But yes, I think that's all the questions I have for you guys. And I also think that brings me to the end of my episode. I don't believe I have anything else to talk about. I might record another episode before the Scottish Yarn Festival, but no, I won't. I might vlog the Scottish Yarn Festival, or at least post a video about the Scottish Yarn Festival, and then do a separate like podcast episode that is like, what I got. Here's my haul. But for anyone who hasn't been to the Scottish Yarn Festival, I haven't been either. This is my first time going, so I'm really excited about it. Maybe doing a little short video, or maybe a YouTube short that's like, here's what the Scottish Yarn Festival was like. So let me know if you'd like that. And yeah, I think that's everything. So yes, I mean, this is the end of the episode. Long outro. I've been Nicole. Thank you so much for watching. It's been awesome. If you liked this video, do all the things, like, subscribe. Don't share it so that we can stay a little community. I mentioned in my first video, my second video, it felt like I had 34 people in my living room chatting with me and sitting talking to tea. If there's too many people here, I might get shy. So, no, that's not true. Yeah, do the things. Join the little community of people in my living room. We're running out of space. So maybe I'll upgrade to like a concert hall. Join the people in my little concert hall. Because I know I feel like I'm on a stage talking to you guys about knitting. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.